She is not. She's. Oh. Kendra, if you can check this, the Microsoft Teams, just to see if anybody's over there and tell them, please log in through the Zoom. I think I responded to everyone so far. Oh, she's in now. All right, perfect. All right, good morning. My name is Waylon Matoir, and I am from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. Let's see, it is 10:10 a.m. and I would like to call this meeting to order on January 26, 2024 for the Advisory Council for Post-Secondary Education for Students with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities meeting to order. This meeting is being held via Zoom and at our designated location at the Texas Higher Education building. Before we begin, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome those that have joined the video conference and ask they adhere to the following etiquette. Please be aware that although we are meeting Zoom, this meeting is still being broadcast via the internet. Please mute your microphone when not speaking. Always keep your camera on. Me or my staff will establish a quorum through a roll call. Each member should identify himself or herself prior to speaking for the record. Wait for one person to finish before speaking. Otherwise, comments may be muddled or unclear. Motions will be voted on by roll call. As we move to roll call, please say here or present if you are here. Ashley Ford.
Present.
Thank you. Aaron Banger.
Here.
Brenda Barrio.
Here.
Elizabeth Fuller.
Present.
Thank you. Tracy Glass. Linda Litzinger.
Present.
Tiffany Grady. Christina Gashanis. Susan Maraska.
Here.
Thank you. Edward O'Neill. Christine Price.
Here.
DJ Fuenta. Jolene Sanders. Beth Stalvey.
Here.
Tara Torres. Laura Villarreal.
Present.
And Nina Zuna.
Here.
Is there anybody present that I have not called?
Just me, but I'm not a member.
Ms. Tamara Shetron is here as a guest and presenter, and she will be joining us today for the record. So, please record in the minutes that we have quorum. At this time, I would like to turn I will continue presiding throughout this meeting for the remaining agenda items. At this time, I'd like for us to approve the minutes from our last meeting. I want to make sure I have the right date for November 17th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Christine. I need a second.
I will second Ashley Ford.
Ford, the second. All in favor? Please say aye. All opposed? And it's been moved and seconded. The motion passes. Believe, for the record, Tracy, did you just join us?
Yes, she did.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, so We got two agenda items. One is our presiding officer and the other is the presentation. We're going to go into the elections first, and then we will wrap up with the presentation immediately after and follow up with announcements and discussion. So at this time, I want to open the floor up for nominations. It's just the process of what this would look like for everyone. We'll just open the floor up for nominations. You may nominate another member. You may nominate yourself. And you have the choice of accepting or declining. And after we get our list of nominations or nominees, we can have a moment for an introduction or word if you would like to speak. And then we will call the make a motion to elect or vote to select our new officer. Any questions beforehand? Beth?
No questions,
Oh,
just a nomination.
oh, okay. Yeah, so with no questions, let's open the floor up for nominations and we'll get it going. Beth?
This is Beth Stalvey. I would like to nominate Linda Litzinger.
Linda?
Thank you, Beth. I accept.
Yeah, okay,
This is Linda Litzinger.
thank you.
This is Ashley Ford, and I would like to nominate Dr. Brenda Barrio.
Brenda, you accept?
Thank you, Ashley. I was highly considering it as until yesterday, but we're about to get a very large grant and I'll have to decline it this time since I'm about to get very, very busy starting this summer. So I apologize for that. But thank you, Ashley.
That's okay. All right. Other nominations? You may nominate yourself. You know, this is always a fun time, right?
I feel like I'm back in elementary school and we're like having to vote on something that's really awkward.
Right. No.
I just want to say that in my mind, like the members who are, here today everyone on this advisory council is so strong with a ton of leadership skills. And I also am interested to hear what Linda Litzinger's vision would be too as presiding officer. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And makes it easy. So yeah, if no other nominations, we can open the floor so Linda can speak and have discussion. And then after that, seeing no other nominations, we can call a meeting, call the elections for a vote. So
Thank you very much. I'm in an interesting position today. Our house has COVID, and we told our physically strong attendants to stay away. And I'm expecting to get it and not be very strong at that point. So I was hoping that I would come on here and find that 3 people were running against me or something. So, but I do have a vision, and my vision is that we create a one-stop place for every parent and student in Texas to come and look and compare, like similar to the National ABLE site where you can compare 2 states to each other. And anyway, that's one of my visions. Another one is that we find ways to include the voices of our students and youth better. So that's a little bit of my vision, and I'm looking forward to it if elected. Thank you.
thanks, Linda. Any further discussion? Nominations? Seeing none, I will close our nominations. All right. I'll call this to a vote. You bring them on. Unopposed. Do we have call a motion for Linda to be our next presiding officer? All in favor? Yay. All opposed? All right, let's congratulate Linda Lislinger as our next presiding officer. Linda, I admire your will to step in this role and position. And I always appreciate the work, and you're always willing to speak up and join and serve on any committee that we have. So you've been here since my beginning as well. So I appreciate that and look forward to working with you and others as we go through this next cycle. So
Thank you.
Yes.
This is Linda. Thank you, Waylon, and I hope you will always be with us.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
He is a wealth of information. It was very helpful for me because I had
Good.
never done it before. So yeah.
Good.
He-
And
he's
I
a
love how
good
strong
support.
everybody is. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Linda, always happy to help. I just, yeah, as a member, I think you will do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I know I can lean on Ashley too.
Well, that's I think
And
that's
I would be saying more right now, and I'm really excited about you in this role, but I have this guy who wants to be very verbal right now. So thank you.
Thanks.
I'm really excited that you're going to be doing this, and I'm happy to support, even though I'm not going to be formally on the council anymore.
And thank you, Beth.
All right. All right. So we have that. I want us to go right into the presentation. If Ms. Tamara is ready, we can go in that and just hear about her program, ask some questions. And then from there, once she gets done, we will wrap up with some additional discussion and announcements.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna attempt to share my screen.
Yeah.
Is that, what are you seeing?
We see the presentation, put it.
That look good. Okay, great. Yay. So good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Tammy Shetron from Texas State University, and I'm actually thrilled that I know about 50% of the people in this meeting from having been plugging away at this for so many years now. And I'm here to talk to you about a new program, the New Kids on the Block here at Texas State. Our program is called Bobcat Rise, which stands for Resilience, Independence, Self-Determination, and Empowerment. I tried to create this presentation in a way to talk uniquely about our program because y'all know the terrain of this topic. And if you have a question at any time, feel free to stop me and ask for clarification. Of course, I can't see my own PowerPoint with the little pop-ups that are here. So I don't know what the top line says. I'm guessing how we started. So in 2019, Vilma Luna, some of you may know her. She was instrumental in helping Aggie Achieve get started. She joined the Texas Board of Directors, or Texas Board, and was introduced as a person instrumental in getting Aggie Achieve started. And so on our administration immediately said, we want a program like that too. So she is a Bobcat alumni, and she said, we can get that going. At that point, a planning committee was established, and a smaller group from that planning committee met together, and they applied for a grant from TCDD. The TCDD grant, we got it, and it was supposed to start in August of 2022, but it was in December of 2022 when I was hired to design the program and get it up and running. We hired a program specialist in mid-May 2023 and had our first application period from January to April with interviews in May. And then we accepted our first cohort of 5 students who are with us now. They just completed their fall season or fall semester and are just starting their spring semester. And in August, we hired a graduate assistant and an independent living assistant. And that's because our students, we have a housing crisis at Texas State, and our students had to live in apartments just off campus. Since that time, our campus has purchased those apartments, so now we can say that we are on campus. So that was a fortunate shift. And let me back up for a second. Let me just say we are a 4-year residential program. I don't think I said that earlier. Let's see, my PowerPoint is not. There we go. So some of the barriers that we met during this planning process is that our grant cycle was supposed to start in August, but we didn't start till 3 months in, and we could have asked for an extension, but we decided to just put the pedal to the metal and do it. So there was a race between completing the tasks that had already been outlined in the grant and getting the first cohort up and running. But we made it. We did all the things that we were supposed to do. There were a lot of steep learning curves in designing the processes that go behind the scenes. We are still working on our CTP application. And I am, again, speaking to this group as people in the know and telling you kind of information that you understand. Our issue there is that just trying to work with our financial aid department and working through and around their busy seasons. So we hope to have that up and established by the end of this semester. Another barrier is philosophical misalignments among staff regarding student growth and development. There's always the group that are like, anyone can do it. And then there's the group that I don't think they're ever going to succeed. And so we're trying to weave into our program more of a developmental philosophical foundation where we are truly there to support the students and let them do the work. And I already mentioned the housing shortage at Texas State. The way our program is set up, our students take a minimum of 15 traditional college courses. They take 5 core courses, which we're still experimenting what the best fits are for that. They take 5 exploratory courses. They can take any course across the campus as long as there's not a prerequisite for it. And then we're hoping that after those 10 courses and with extensive employment training, that by that time they will have sort of figured out the area they want to go into. And our goal, and we haven't done it yet because we're just brand new, is that we will work with departments to create a concentration that will provide them the foundational education they need to go into a specific area. So our program is not, we don't have career tracks. Our goal is that our students can go into whatever area they want to, and we will build that track. We don't have any specific certifications or anything yet, but we hope to work for that. We also have part of our program is Bobcat Rise seminars. Those are on self and campus, which is understanding yourself better and what the campus amenities are that you can avail yourself of. This semester, our students are taking health and well-being, and we're in the process of working, having them create their own cookbook, and then we're going to use that as a fundraiser. They'll be learning financial literacy. We also have courses on self-advocacy and political advocacy, and there's others. There's one for every semester. And then about 50% of our program is employment oriented. Our first year focuses on exploring on-campus jobs and job shadowing, and there's a supporting course that talks about resume writing, how to interview, how to get a job, and also career explorations, like what are you good at? What do you think you would like to do? We're hoping by year 2, they'll have full semester on-campus jobs. There will also still be an employment course that supports that. And then years 3 and 4, we hope our students will move out into the community. and starting with job shadowing. And then hopefully by that last year, especially that last semester, they'll have full paid or unpaid internships in the community. Some of our components are mandatory, some are non-mandatory. Mandatory components of the program are orientations. For the first year, we have a daily study group that meets. We haven't decided if it will be mandated for after the first year. We're waiting to see how the students do. We have a course, it's called Weekend Warriors. It's not really a course, but it's facilitated by volunteers. And once a week, our volunteers get together with our students and they talk about what's going on campus over the weekend. And we kind of, we established that so that we could go into the weekends knowing that our students had a plan. This semester, we're actually going to shift that a little towards encouraging more peer mentorship and actually doing things with our students, taking, and joining them for lunch or something like that. They have 2 advising sessions per semester, one midway to make sure everything's on track. And at the end of the semester, we get together with their families too, or whoever they want to invite to that meeting. We also have a unique part of our component of our program is we have a social work intern. Our program specialist is a licensed social worker and she can supervise social work interns. So this is a graduating senior who has to do, I think it's 425 or 430 hours in the semester. And that's free labor for us, but also invaluable labor. This person last semester, they met with each one of our students for an hour a week, helped them set SMART goals, helped them adapt to campus life, helped them find things that they didn't know where they were. Excuse me. And we're planning on continuing this for all 4 years because every week they collect some really rich data on these students, and we're hoping to use that as a way to track college student development for our students over the years. We also established in the non-mandatory category a student organization called BOCO Buddies. BOCO is our mascot. And we have one of our students is on the board for BOCO Buddies, and they table at events. They're planning a fundraiser, and let's see, last semester we did an ice cream social. So that's a student organization, and anyone can join it, any student. It's not just for our students. The students can join in any other planned in-program extracurriculars. They're not mandatory. But they can do any activity on the campus that's available to other students. They have a ID card. They're in the system. We're building systems across multiple systems. That's the word for today. To fully integrate our students so that anything that any other Bobcat can do, our students can do. This is our first cohort, our 5 students, and down in the corner, you see a bowling alley. That's one of our students signed up for bowling this semester. This semester, we said, you have to take 2 mandatory courses, but you can actually take others if you have time and you want to. And this student decided to take bowling. So he goes down to the bowling alley twice a week and joins other students doing that. So what does it cost? One of the unique ways that we've decided to approach this is what we've done is we're working with our Office of Distance and Extended Learning, and every course our students sign up for, they create a separate section of it, and we're able to have our students take that course but only get charged 1 credit for that. And I did that so that they could save money on tuition, because of course there is a program fee. You can look at the numbers are right there. Our program fee, we came to that number based on other programs in the state, and we are planning to use that number to figure out how many staff we can eventually hire. We're looking to hire an administrator and I don't remember the word, like a secretary is the old-fashioned word. What is that word? Administrative assistant.
assistant. Yeah, we just hired one.
It's a big word. So we're hoping to hire an administrative assistant in the fall, because if you do any work like this, there's a lot of pieces, and right now our program specialist is doing most of that work, and she's phenomenal at it. But she's going to be busier doing more employment things in the future, and she won't have the bandwidth. Does anyone have any questions about these costs? Okay, I'm going to move on. So putting it all together, and I apologize, there is this weird. Oh wait, I think I can get rid of it. There we go. So we've been working across multiple internal systems. There's billing, the registrar, Office of Distance and Education and Learning, all the instructors. We have instructor training. Any instructor that has our students in their class, we have a special training for them to join. We meet with them at the beginning of the class. We meet with them after the class has started to make independent student agreements, learning agreements. We're also working with external systems. We're trying to create relationships with the TWC. Our program specialist is currently taking the vocational rehabilitation training at UNT, so that she can really understand how that system works, and also we can show alignment. We're not trying to work against that system. We're trying to work with that system. So we are actually taking the training so we can. We're also working with carts to get our students transportation. For instance, the student taking bowling, he can't get there unless he has a bus or something to take. So we're working with that system. There's a big learning curve to just understanding our students and really finding out what their needs are, their support needs. Yesterday, I was able to meet with our director of disability services and asked him if, the accommodations that you give our students from their IEPs and their high school information, once we learn the student and see what needs they really have, can they go back and add to them or subtract and really get to the sweet spot of support for them? And he said, absolutely. So we do have some students that have additional support needs that their accommodations don't address right now. We're learning what works and what doesn't. We're questioning choices we've made right now. The biggest questioning I'm doing is, should we have all our classes pass fail, or should they be letter grades, and how to do that. The satisfactory academic progress policies. That's where I am right now. And our staff, we have the division of duties, and we're trying to accommodate staff strengths and weaknesses. I think my goal as the director is to make sure everyone's doing what they're best at and not just putting someone in a position because we have a need for it. We have gotten our second year of funding from TCDD. We're about to apply for our third year. We are functioning also with a grant from HEB, and we got another grant from another organization for $100,000. So though that money's getting us through the startup process. I'm learning how to budget and to project budgeting. That's a new thing for me. So I'm doing that. And I already mentioned the CTP status is in the works. And why is this not changing? So, of course, we have a disclaimer from our funder, which I am required to show you. You don't need to read that. But if you can, whip out your cell phones, because this is also a requirement from our funder that anytime I present, we take surveys. I'm going to give everyone about 15 seconds, because either you have your phone and you're willing to do it, or you don't, and no pressure either way. And I'm going to move on. Thank you, whoever maybe did that. And now is the time for questions. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Question.
Yes.
Fellow Texas State alum here, eat 'em up cats.
Yay.
Really excited to see this happening in at Texas State and San Marcos, especially because I think that San Marcos is a very special community. I'm curious if you can share sort of where the students are from. Something that I hear a lot sort of in my advocacy work with the ARC is that you know, people don't want to have to go far from home. They'd like to stay close to mom and dad if possible. And so I'm wondering if you've seen that same you know, interest.
Yeah, so we have students from all over. So it's our first year and we just have 5 students. We have one's from Fredericksburg. I think he's the closest one. We have one from Katy, one from a little town called Van, Texas. Another one from even further east Texas. I think they have 4 or 5 hours to get here. So we actually have quite a few rural of our students. I'm blanking on where the last one's from, but they're coming from small towns in East
Very
Texas, a
cool.
lot of them. Yeah, and they're phenomenal.
Okay, well, I'm surprised by that, but that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, we did have only one applicant from San Marcos, and they were asking if they could just live at home since they lived in San Marcos. And we were like, unfortunately, it's a residential program. And the part of the training is that you are learning to live on your own in an apartment. And we have a cohort model, at least for the first year, where the students support each other and they kind of, you know, help each other figure it out. So we didn't want just one student just kind of popping on campus whenever and being subjected to the parents' availability to bring them and things like that.
Sure.
And this
I
is Nate.
also like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead,
Oh,
Christine.
no, okay. I really like that part for many reasons, but doing this for a long time,
Yes.
parents are ever so helpful and accidentally get in the way of social and growth. And so I think I always phrase it as our parents didn't go to college with us, to the parents and stuff. And so we want that same legitimate experience for our students. And so I love that they come on campus and they get that independence and that time to grow away from family, because I just literally got in yesterday, and when we're with our families we all act a certain way, and so I love that you have that piece and that you're holding that hard line. So
Well, I have had, so a lot of our students are like from larger families, and the families have a college going orientation. They may have a sibling already in college and they get it. They're like, I don't understand the meal plan. I'll be like, I don't either. Call the meal service. Like, that's not what I do. I don't do that. If it's complicated for you, I don't even have a kid in school here. It's complicated for me. But we do have one family that they do not have that background. The mother shows up all the time. She went to the student's class, you know, and I had to send her an article from like, I don't know, Time magazine or something that, you know, leave your student at the door when they go to college, you know, you know, they'll pick him up and I'll be like, he had a test that afternoon. You can't, you know, he missed his final because, you know, well, he said he was done. I was like, well, he didn't tell you the truth, you know? So yes, it's interesting.
we've had all those same things, and so that's why I was like, oh, I just love that.
We're starting. So our first task this semester is student handbook. These are the expectations, sign it, and then we can bring the student back to that document. But we're learning as we go.
I'm curious, just, you know, among your students, you know, I think that hearing sort of that families that are you have a small cohort right now, but, among your families, it's sort of people who are familiar with college already. That sort of culture, right? And that understanding of what all of that can sort of mean. I'm curious if you've sort of picked up on any other sort of like commonalities among these students and sort of like what they received in high school, or, what they were sort of a part of, what sort of preparation they may have.
Yeah, so my answer to that is like as individual as each student, right?
Yeah.
But we can definitely see the student who was perhaps bullied and coming in with this kind of, you're all going to hate me, you're all going to whatever. And it's like, this is college, you start new, and then watching that person kind of come out of their shell and be like, wow, you respect me, even if I am being a jerk or if I'm doing something, whatever, and it's like, yeah, you're an adult now. We see the students that were involved in a lot of organizations, and they already get, oh, I can do things. A lot of these families I'm not a sports person, so I apologize, but our students are going to so many sporting events. I am awed by it. They just find the calendar and they just show up, and I'm like, I don't even know how to go to a football game, right? So they're just doing it. I really love the idea that they are from a lot of them are from families with a college going culture. I have one student who really can't, he's functionally illiterate, and it's his disability. Like it's just not in the cards for him to become reading literate. He's super bright. He can audiobooks, things like that. And when he's in a class where he's kind of being forced to do things that we have to find other ways around, he tells me, I can't wait for these required classes to be over, but he doesn't fight it in the way someone else would, because he has a brother in college right now, and his brother had to take classes he didn't like. So he gets it. I'll be in classes I don't necessarily like. Whereas the student who's not from a college going background is every day, why do I have to be here? Why do I have to be in this class? I don't get it. This is a stupid class. I hate it. How is this going to matter to me? So you can see that family background and the prior experiences. One other thing I do want to say is, you cannot tell a student's level from the high school transcripts. Everybody gets an A. So we have to definitely find other ways to find out what their skills are.
We use we request, they don't have to give it to us, but and they usually do, their last IEP. And that gives us a good jumping point, but sometimes it is lower than what they actually are. So I say still push them.
Yeah, well, we have that too, the IEP or the ART or anything like that.
Good.
But at the end of the day, that paperwork is often not really representative of the student you're getting in front of you.
True. Absolutely. And Nina still has a comment.
Oh, sure. Nina?
Yeah, thank you, Tammy. I've always wanted to learn a little more about Bobcat Rise, so I appreciate the presentation. I guess before I ask my question, I'll just make one comment about, we use a wraparound process to really kind of get to know the student, because you're right, even though we ask them to send the IEP documents, we ask specific questions, in terms of the types of support they need, where do they feel they would need to be supported in class, in the community, and a lot of their independent living skills, self-care skills, just so we can kind of hit the ground running with their support. I was curious about the age ranges, and are you only kind of like accepting within like 18 to 25? Is it across the age range? And are your students typically coming from 18 plus programs or traditional, graduation, or, whatever the accepted graduation is? Just a little more on the demographics of the student.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so we have not reinvented this wheel. We have just borrowed from other programs, and that's our like starting point. And then we're seeing how that works. We probably just grabbed this from some other program. 18 to 23 is our target demographic for first time in college. If it's a transfer student, we're accepting applications up to age 28. And as far as that question about are they coming from transition programs, I don't think any of our current students have been in transition programs, but there was also COVID. So I don't know that they would or wouldn't have been if everyone hadn't been home for the last couple of years anyways. Does that make sense? I don't, but I don't think any of our students have been in those programs.
So they graduated, they're age 18. They didn't go to the 18
There
plus
are older
program.
ones, but like a lot of them, one of our students had worked full-time at Buc-ee's before he came, making probably really decent money. And, you know, but his family said, I don't want him schlepping burgers for his whole life. I want him to have the opportunity to have a career where he's using his true gifts and his mind and his, you know, those things. And we have another student that worked at a winery in Fredericksburg. So I think they were just working.
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense. I love hearing about all the community activities they're doing because that's such an important part of the college experience beyond just the education, right?
Yeah, we're really, since we had such a small cohort, we felt like they were a little overly insular, but at the same time, they're doing things on their own. Our concern, or the parents' concern, is that they're doing things on their own, but they're still alone while they're doing them. So now we're trying to sort of address that component. Even they'll both be at a game, but they won't be there together. So, Linda?
Thank you, Linda Litzinger. This is just so very exciting, especially that they can choose what direction and focus they want to have rather than an invented program. I just think that's absolutely thrilling. And it's causing me to wonder a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is when they get into class and they need a modification, such as the professor wearing a microphone that matches their headphone or a note taker or whatever they need. Um, is the professor pretty much seeing it as being the same way as if they are working with the Office of Disability Supports, or are they seeing it differently?
So I have to give a shout out. Ashley, you'll probably agree. Texas State University, woo-hoo, zero pushback on anything. Everybody
Wow.
I've contacted has been, how can I help? What can we do? Teach us how to do it. Let's make this happen. I have had any professor that we've reached out to has responded to us. Hey, you know, this student needs a note taker, but have you thought about maybe having someone volunteer to take notes for the whole class and just posting them for everybody or anybody that might need them? Like, you know, and they're like, oh, And I've had instructors give us feedback. You know what? We need fillable PDF forms for the student that doesn't write, who does speech to text and needs to access on their phone or on their computer. If we had fillable PDFs, then they could voice to text in the fillable PDF and just submit it. So we're working to find these more intuitive ways that everybody can benefit. I won't say that we're successful or we've got like a system yet, we're brand new, but as we find these workarounds, we're listing them and we're trying to make trainings for them and things like that.
Thank you. That's wonderful. When my daughter took partners, there wasn't anything like a fillable PDF, but there were a lot of questionnaires and quizzes and things. And she was hoping that that could be invented someday.
Yeah, well, we have, I just want to say we have one student who just gets very anxious, high anxiety over being asked to write under pressure in the classroom. And
Yes.
that's why we were like, how this person is spinning out only, not that they can't do it, but it's that on the spot, do it now. So that's why we're
Yes.
like, we've got to really figure this out. It's not good for this person to be so
And some
anxious.
people need more time. Yeah,
For
and
sure.
there's not
Yeah.
always the allotted time. Another question I'm having is, I love that you're in apartments. If somebody needed a personal attendant to come in and help them throughout the day, would that be possible in those apartments? And especially on a college campus, it's hard for that person to find the right parking. So I'm curious to know if that's set up in your program yet.
It's not intentionally set up, but the apartments that we are in and that we hope to lock into space for at least freshman, sophomore year, now that they're on campus housing, I believe it's possible. They have an attached parking garage. They have lots of parking in this particular apartment building. We have
Cool.
a person that lives with them who would not be able to do that kind of attending, but I don't see any reason why if the person brings their own attendant with them, they couldn't have that. And I don't know if there's actually like ADA compliant apartments, but that's something I could look into and something we could probably modify.
So thank you. This is very exciting. And we would love for you to speak to our parents one Monday night if you have time.
Sure, sure. And we know each other, Linda. I was with Tilt.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else?
Tamara, I had a few questions. I know you said 5 students were enrolled at this time. What is your capacity for the program now, or where do you plan to see it grow?
Yeah, so our goal is to have 10 students every year. We got 30 applicants for this application round, which we did earlier. Like we were behind last year just because of when I was hired. So our goal is to have 10. We have 30 applicants. We're in the process. Our admissions team is reviewing them over the next month. And then we'll invite strong candidates to campus to interview.
Perfect. Did you do anything special as far as the recruitment strategy?
No. So our philosophy at this point is we're not really quite sure what we're doing, so we don't want to get a lot of people knocking on our door yet. So I know that might sound like a kind of a not strong answer, but we haven't wanted to flood the, application system at this point.
Nice.
We're working into getting our stride.
Makes perfect sense.
This is Ashley Ford. I have a question too. This is random, but if you had like one policy that you could change, or if you think that you could tell the Texas legislator like one thing, what would it be?
So this might not be a text. Well, so I don't know where I'm learning the outside systems. I'm very,
Okay, just say it. We can figure it out.
yeah, I'm very disappointed that TWC doesn't just recognize this kind of program as a valuable way to get employment, and that they don't just automatically support the students. They've been very kind and said that they'll definitely consider after we've proven ourselves for a couple of years. But at the same time, if our students were visually impaired, if they had any other kind of disability, they would just have that support. And we're just following on the paths that others have forged. We're not doing anything new. Like you're hearing me talk about our program, it may have unique factors, but the idea of inclusive post-secondary education, it's been around now for a bit, and research shows that of the benefits of it. So why they take the stance that you have to prove yourself? If you say you're a hamburger stand and you set up and you make hamburgers, how many hamburgers do you have to make before someone says, "Oh, you're making hamburgers"? So I'm assuming, and the whole reason I'm doing this is that these programs work and that our students are going to grow and develop and find themselves and figure it out. Brenda was one of my dissertation participants, and one of my favorite quotes of everything that I heard of all the people I interviewed was, "The power is in the student." These students will grow and develop if we give them access. So that's my answer. Sue, do you have something?
Yes, congratulations, Tamara. I'm so excited to hear about your program. It sounds wonderful. I just wanted to share because this is my 34th year doing this. And when I started, I actually met with TRC before DARS, before TWCBR. And even people came from Austin because when they found out, it was funny because when we first started, we were one of the first, and there was some pockets of counselors that wanted to fund our program. We weren't even reaching out. And then there were some that, no. And then they called in the Austin, folks came down to Houston and, way back when. And that person in Austin that came down to Houston taught me and us how to get TRC at that time funding. And we became, at that time, well, it was called JQT, and I forgot, it was different, categories. But we met with them, and that's how we first started getting TRC in the early 90s already. Okay. But we've had challenges through the years on and off as, they changed from TRC to DARS to TWC voc rehab. But of course, with us, the whole key was, what can you do for employment? You have to show that you're doing something for employment, because that's what they're about, is employment. And so how this is helping them with that. So we've had a lot of different challenges that we've overcome through the years, but now we have no problem whatsoever with TWC. And I guess what I wanted to ask you was, because sometimes I still get problems with local counselors, pockets of local counselors, because, we're in the Houston area and it's huge. So maybe the majority are very supportive, but every so often I'll hear some secondhand from a parent. Oh, they said, well, don't send them to VAST because they don't do that. And some counselor that's never even met me, never been to our program, and so we have to educate. We have to continue to let them know what you don't know how many times we've had to do presentations to, to the region, to the area managers' offices, all those different things, invite them to come out. But I guess I wanted to ask you that, who it is in TWC that you're speaking to, because I think it really makes a difference when you're speaking to region or the region director or even your Austin folks, because I know the folks in Austin are very supportive of these programs. They're very well aware of our advisory council. They're very well aware of the movement that's going on around the nation. They're very well of the CTPs. They want to support pre-ETS. We have the STEM camps in the summer, which of course they fully support. And I think that, they're very supportive. So I guess if it's just one counselor here or one counselor there that's giving you this negative comment, don't let that stop you. Go to the area. I used to do that. I remember I would get on the phone and call I would call the counselor first, but if I didn't get any, I would go up to their person, or I would ask to have a meeting, or what can we do to, but I think that you have to show some kinds of employment, leading to employment in some fashion, pre-employment or employment, or that type of thing. If you're going to be applying for CTP, I think that's great, because then you can do college work study, and then you'll have pre-employment experience, which I think will help. And I think I know that in the early years, they used to consider our program more like remedial, where they could not pay for more than 2 semesters, because there's a policy now where they can only pay for 2 semesters for remedial work. So if they're thinking of this as remedial, but your program is not really remedial. So anything that you can do that has that, a little bit to do with employment, work for, that's what's going to make them want to do it. But I think that you may want to speak to, like I said, the state folks, because they understand these programs and what we're doing. And that doesn't always trickle down to those counselors on the local level that you're dealing with, because they may just say, oh, well, you're not, supported employment, or how is my client going to get a job, or I don't, whatever. And you have to really, you have to meet and talk with them and see, because they may be willing to, of course, if you get CTP, they're going to get financial aid anyway, but you still like to have your students to have TWC, because there's other resources and supports that they can offer beside just tuition and room and board. But I do know,
so it's my understanding, like here in Austin, that they just want to roll out the red carpet when it comes to students with disabilities in college. And so I am happy to support any advocacy or make connections here in Austin. I had multiple phone calls over the course of the legislative session on bills related to post-secondary education, people at TWC and elsewhere. And I'm very surprised to hear sort of this just based on the conversations that I had during session and sort of their encouragement of students with IDD getting VR services and, getting help in college. So I'm
Hi.
happy to support that too.
Yeah, let's let Brenda chime in here.
Ashley, this is Brenda Barrio. So just a few clarifications. They're very supportive and they're currently actually working on policies and guidelines at the state level. Tammy, do you mind exit out on the screen? Because I see everybody very small.
Oh, let me see if I can stop screen share.
Yeah, if you stop sharing.
I can try.
Can't see everybody. They're currently working on that. The biggest difference, I think, right now is that most of us that are inclusive post-secondary education programs, fully inclusive ones, are still trying to figure out, specific guidance to support them. We are very lucky, as Sue mentioned, that our local folks at TWC have been fully supported and fully understand, but they're completely embedded within our program. And so all of our students receive at different levels, of course, depending on their income, but they all receive TWC funds at this rate. We have two former TWC counselors that know the policies very well. They know the system very well. And of course, they have those great relationships with them. But at the state level, because this is something that I know Aggie Achieve is also have been having some issues with, as a blanket policy, they're still working on that for any inclusive post-secondary. Again, there's different types of programs, but the fully inclusive ones are the ones that are having issues. We have shared with them all the data. Of course, we're fairly new, so we don't have exit data. For example, our first cohort is not going to graduate until next year. But I've been working within college for the past 3 years in getting all the data. So I've already shared the data with TWC at the state level. They've received it very well. They're very excited about it. But again, they're still working on those guidelines and how to better figure out the process on how to support the programs, or not the programs directly because they can't do that, but the students within the programs, right? So, but I agree with Sue. I think it is very much a counselor to counselor basis. So what we have done is, because our students moved to Denton, we've established that they transfer counselors to our Denton-based TWC, who again are very much embedded within our program. They come visit all the time. Our students do a lot of work-based programs here, and they get paid for. So that has helped tremendously. Really understand. Although they might be from all over the state, sometimes from all across the country, they still come and transfer over to us. So I think that has been helpful. But again, yes, you're right, Ashley. They're very excited. They're just trying to figure out how to best, support us and our students.
Thank you, Brenda. So yes, I don't want to be like a Nelly naysayer here, but that is why we are sending our person to UNT to get that training, because we do want to really understand the system. We don't want to fight it. We don't want to be ignorant. We're still new and trying to figure it out.
Right. And thank you, Brenda, for chiming in as the person here representing TWCVR. It's important to understand that there's a process and there's policies that we have to abide by, and are held accountable to those. So it's not a matter of just stubbornness. It's just a process that's in place. And we've, followed that process through. Nina can speak to that. Zena with her program and UNT. So, like anything else, working with the state, it takes time.
Yes, but they have all the data that I think they need. Is just just like everything else, even in higher ed, policies take a while to get through. So all the checks and balances, but
Sure. And I definitely think that like lens of intellectual and developmental disability has historically sort of just been more of a issue within sort of the VR system. So I'm really glad to hear that like Lucy is at UNT doing awesome work, for example, to improve the availability of training. So
Yes, our UNT WISE program to do the training has been tremendous. And having Crystal George as our former TWC counselor, now our employment coordinator, has been a game changer for us. And that has really developed the relationship, not only again locally, but also at the state level. So, but again, we're still working on it. So Laura, I concur with you.
Good information, y'all, and thanks for sharing, Tamara. It's just good to see another program be established. So congrats on that, and we look forward to, serving others and across the state, especially your students, and seeing how it goes. So thanks again. Speaking on that, as far as a new program, and Tamara, you can chime in, or even others. What is you thinking a good budget for a new program to be established? What is like an appropriate seed?
I was literally thinking the same question. I'm just saying, I'm glad that you asked that question. Great question.
Yeah, like, so I got to think of it from my side. How can I assist, or others, like if they want to get started to start a new program, what does that look like? What do they need, or what would be a good amount to establish this to get this off the ground?
Brenda, do you want to chime in? I've got a number in my head, but
I want all the numbers.
Yeah, Waylon, I've UNT Elevar's part of the mission has been from the beginning, and before I arrived back in the state of Texas, to support other programs and other universities to get started. So we were instrumental in getting Bobcat Rise get going. So we're very excited that they're here and they're part of it. It really depends on the mechanism of the university, right? So four-year colleges, I would say to just get them off the ground, it's about $200,000 to $250,000. That is because of the staffing. That is because of the faculty work. Many of us, although we love to do this work, we can't do everything, teach, do research, our service, and then add on to this. So some course releases, summer pay, things like that. But even infrastructure wise, as Tammy was saying, an administrative assistant, the recruitment piece is huge. And then once, you get all that stuff rolling, the supports to the students, although you may think it might be 5 students in the first cohort, just the same that we started, not only the director employment, coordinator, and then other student supports, GAs, hourly students, it becomes a whole unit, right? So we, as fully inclusive post-secondary programs, we touch every single unit across campus, from the registrar's office to housing, student affairs, and so on and so forth. So the amount of hours and work to develop these programs is tremendous. And so if there is a way, and of course, prices have risen, same thing with positions and salaries and things like that. So that is a very modest estimate, the 250. I would say even further more, but that would be it. For once the program, I think, is well established. Again, it just depends. But one of the things that we had done in this council, I think, from last year during our report, is that there are different mechanisms within different states, red states, blue states, purple, you name it, that have embedded within their legislature funding mechanisms to support not only established programs, but mainly starting programs. The state of Florida is one of them, for example, and the state of Georgia is another one. And they have the funding mechanism that if there's a Texas state that wants to get started, and yes, there's TCDD, which we're very grateful for. The state actually has the funding to get them going. And I think that is key to expanding inclusive higher education across the state of Texas.
And if I can, I see you have your hand up, but if I can just add to that, Brenda. So there was a bill filed this past session that hope to expand the number of post-secondary education programs. But what that bill lacked was sort of a budget rider or any sort of appropriations tied to actually, finance the expansion of more inclusive post-secondary education programs. And so, Waylon, I really appreciate that question, because looking into, potentially refiling that bill in the future, it would be good to have sort of a dollar amount to what would be needed to expand the number of potential post-secondary programs in the state. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. Sue?
It will depend on, of course, what model or what type of program you're looking at doing at the college or university level, and how many students you're planning to serve, of course. A lot of these programs do tend to start with a grant, some type of a grant, whether it's a TIPSA grant or another grant like TCCD. When we started way back when, programs don't start that way anymore. I mean, I got hired $13 an hour, and eventually they, committed me one full-time position for how many years, and we were looking at enrollment. These programs are not going to be able to be funded through the normal funding stream of a college or university with contact hour reimbursement enrollment, okay? Right. Although for many years in the early years, that's how my program got so large, because I was having this high enrollment just to justify getting some positions. I had Perkins, we still have Perkins funded positions. Okay, so all of those things, figuring out ways, community partners, foundation grants. We're looking at multiple funding streams. We knew we had to do that. But thankfully in 2010, when we got that big TIPSA grant, we were able to expand. But by that time, we were already serving over 150 students. We were not one of these, programs like that are happening now with 5 students or 10 students or 8 students. Okay, and now we serve 200 students a year and multiple campuses. But just to let you know, my budget alone is right now is probably, if you count the hard money budget, is over 700,000. The grants is probably, when you add that on, it's going to be over 800,000, and we're still not 100. I mean, there's more funding that we're needing and applying for. But I mean, just to start a program, if you're going to start a program like Tamara's doing, or Aggie's Achieve, or these other programs, you're doing smaller number of students, you may not have as large of a staff. We have to have more staff because we're a larger program. So right. Then you're looking at that higher cost. But I think Brenda hit it on the nose. That's probably a good ballpark figure to look at. If you're applying for a grant, there has to be a commitment from the college and the university to want to do these programs. And then you have to have some type of a plan of how you're going to, are you going to follow the Think College model? Are you going to, do an 18 plus with the school district? Because then the school district's paying for the students. Those kind of things. What kind of commitment is the college? At the very least, you have to have a full-time person, and you have to be able to pay for the teacher and the staff. Who are you going to partner with on campus? So there's all those different things to look at. But I think, Waylon, that was a really good question, because if we're going to eventually get state funding or grants or something to start these programs, we're going to have to probably look at a way, maybe our group can help with that, to make recommendations as to how much these programs cost, or maybe the range, depending on which model they select. They don't have to be large, expensive programs. We charge $259 a class for our program. Plus our students can get financial aid and they can get scholarships. And but we've been around for a long, long time, and you don't have to be, now we started off when there wasn't programs. So we had to struggle all these years. Now you've got Think College to come in or can work with you. You've got the CTP option. You've got, so it's going to be a little bit easier now for those that are starting out now. And of course, the colleges and universities aren't going to be pressuring you to have all this high enrollment like I did when I first started, because they see that the newer models are only going to be 5 to 8 students, 10 students, 15 students, 20 students. It's not meant to be a large program. But, when I started out, it was that old fashioned, enrollment, and even now I have to continue to keep educating our administration, because we want to expand over here, we want to expand over there, but we also have to look at the model for expansion. And now I'm trying to look at smaller, very small cohort if we expand, because, the larger number of students you're serving, the more faculty and staff that you're going to have. If you're doing full inclusion and you're only having a small number of students, then the funding should not have to be as high. because you're really just paying for the instructor and the director and, whatever minimal staff that you need. But I think that, Brenda, what she said, that's a good amount of money. But, when I consult and talk to most people are not going to start a program the size of what we're doing at Houston Community College, because that's not the way to start with this large. So what we're doing is just continuing to find funding to expand and move on. But I think that because there is so many different models, that's what's, I think, confusing. I think colleges and universities may want to have these programs, but they're not. Maybe that's something our group can do, is to help educate the universities and colleges, because they may not still be aware of, oh, we want to do this, but what is the cost? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to expand to another campus, and it's like, well, what is the cost? You need these rooms. How many rooms do you need? If we're only going to serve 10 to 15 students twice a week in a room, and then they can get another department to use that same room for 30 students, it's a cost thing. So do you see why you have to have that? You have to have the administration commitment. But of course, if the coordinating board is mandating something, or, if the coordinating board is saying we have this funding available, then that's going to help with that. But I think that I'm seeing a lot of new administration coming in, even at our college, that they want to support our programs. What can we do? What can we do? And I think the support is larger now than ever before. They want to do something. It's just figuring out the cost. And there is multiple funding streams that you have to look at. You can't just look at and now, as you know, our state of Texas new funding model is all about completion. So these credentials, so we're doing more now with the credentials of value, micro credentials, all of those things, because you want to see completion. Our students, we're focusing more now on those that when they graduate our program, how many are getting associate degrees, how many are getting certificates, and these are not special programs. They're leaving our program and getting that associate degree, not in a special program. They're getting their certificates. They're getting all of these completions and moving on to universities. So it's all about that funding. Right now, the funding model for the colleges and universities is going to change, not so much enrollment, right? It's going to be more the completion. So I think this might be, I'm glad you brought that up, because this is something that maybe we can all do as one of our recommendations possibly for the new year, right? So that we can look at, because I think there needs to be more funding that universities and colleges can apply for. TIPS, it was just one TCCD, but there needs to be more ways to fund, and I think we have to advise or recommend the models or a couple different models of what the cost would be, so they can make that decision of what type of program they want to do.
Thanks, Sue. Let me get Brenda and Nina to speak, and then we can go into announcements, so we try to get this.
Yeah, very briefly, because I have to go in a few minutes. But I agree with Sue. One of the $250,000 that I mentioned, again, very ballpark, does not include what the university is already providing. And so they provide a lot of supports and time from other administrative assistants, from other staff members, faculty, so on and so forth. So those are what we would consider cost share, something that the universities and something that UNT, for example, even with the TIP seed grant, we still have 25% cost share. So just as a ballpark. But if the Texas Higher Education Board ever wants to, needs some type of cost analysis or any other financial information on how, what this may cost, I'm happy to help out. But that's it. I got to run here in a second, so I appreciate the time.
All right, Nina.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, everyone shared already so much valuable information. I was just going to say what Brenda said in terms of how much you can incorporate the administrative tasks, within the university. We're lucky we're a University Center for Excellence on Developmental Disabilities. So we use our program staff to kind of help some of the financial admin stuff, ordering things that we need, or, being a liaison between the university. And then Sue was mentioning there are so many different models. So depending on the model you choose also dictates how many staff that you will need, because we focus clearly on employment. We have a lot of volunteer work in the community, and then the students in the spring semester do their employment internships. That requires more staff to kind of be on the ground with them, helping them, as a job coach, at their new employment setting, making sure that they're, doing what the employer needs, right? So that's a little different than just kind of staying on the university campus as well. So we do a lot out in the community, but we do try to incorporate the social work students in as much, students at the university. So if you can do that as well, getting some of those agreements in place, I think that would be helpful.
Thanks, Nina, and thank you all. Absolutely. Think this is something we can collaborate on as a council to try to consider models, propose costs, those sort of things. Because for one, it's trying to gauge the interest of other institutions to say, hey, do we want to expand? Do we want to create this? Do we have the funds and manpower? What does it look like, versus just arbitrary numbers or something like something we should do, or if somebody already has a program, how they become a comprehensive transition program, those sort of things and costs associated with that. So I'm happy to further the discussions and hope to see what we come up with, and maybe just surveying the field to gain interest to see what that looks like as well. So as we move on to wrap this meeting up, we can, as far as announcements for new members joining the council. So we have our next, I couldn't get the newest members in for our board meeting that happened yesterday for approval. So they will all join us at the next, they will be approved to be an active and voting member at the next board meeting, which will take place in April. And currently we have, what I have here, let me make sure I got it. I know it's Miss Tamara that just presented. She'll be joining us as a member, and Lauren Woolfolk from the University of North Texas. She is on here, or was on here as well, as a student representative. So a couple of those students that have been with us over the past 2 or 3 years that hasn't joined us, or other members, if they haven't joined us, we will remove them from our list. So if y'all have anybody else y'all would want to recommend or join us in the meantime, please let me know, probably within the next week or 2, so I can start submitting and routing our new membership. I think it's just important that we remove those that are inactive, solely because it affects our quorum. And so if we can minimize those that are not inactive or haven't been participating within the last year, I think it's safe to say that we can move forward. Ashley, I see you raising your hand. I did have your replacement with Sabrina as well.
Thank you. And Waylon, I was wondering if you could perhaps send out a roster with sort of the unfilled positions, or if you could just sort of identify what representation, was in SB's 1017 that is not, that we don't have, too, because I have just many different people in my network who've expressed interest in post-secondary education. And if I just had a better awareness of who, what those specific roles are, I could plug those in potentially, or ask Sabrina to make that connection too, if needed.
Sounds good. I'll definitely get that on that. And Linda, I seen your note as far as updating. So I'll send the current or the new membership list out, the new members list, and you can update if there's any corrections to titles, organizations you serve on, whatever. Please update, let me know, and then I'll also send the vacant roles that have been identified in statute that may not be filled. And I think the most part was alumni students or parenting of alumni students, those sort of things, I think were the main ones that I can remember, but I'll definitely dive back into that. Other than that, we will tentatively schedule our next meeting on February 23rd. I know we're meeting now, we try to meet quarterly, but I think it's just important to try to keep the momentum going by selecting our presiding officer. And now, because we have a report that's due in the summer, and we need to get things going as far as organizing committees and starting the work that we anticipate providing or sharing as far as recommendations. So our work, Cheryl wasn't able to make it today. She had a meeting with A&M today, but we will work together with Linda to kind of brainstorm and strategize as far as the next for the next meeting and how we want to approach the reporting and the vision Linda has shared with you all today. So any other discussion?
Waylon, this is Aaron. What was the
Yeah.
event you mentioned for new members?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
You mentioned an event that you wanted to make sure that new members were invited to, but I didn't catch what the event was.
Oh, I might have mentioned the board meeting. We have our agency board meetings that we have to get approval for our new members to be an active and voting member. So I was just referencing that takes place in April. Not that you have to participate. I just have to submit all the members to that to the board to get approval.
Okay,
So I
gotcha.
apologize. Yeah. And I'm also interested in maybe bringing everyone together for in-person meeting, and that could be maybe a work day to, when we feel comfortable with maybe having some ideas of our report and just spend a day working on that or just anything. I don't, but I do anticipate or inviting everyone down so we can meet as a group. So maybe in the summer or I don't know when we'll talk with Linda and we'll start getting some feedback and interest in what that may look like as far as the best time for everyone's schedule.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all. And can I get a motion to close it? Or-
Ashley Ford will make a motion.
Thanks, Ashley. Second.
I
Linda
second.
Litzinger.
Oh.
Thank you, Linda. All in favor? Close. To adjourn our meeting. All right. Motion passes now 11:31 a.m. You all have a great weekend and see you all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.